Welcome to this presentation for the Developing Subject Knowledge and Pedagogy module. My subject knowledge audit. The audit emphasised that grammar was my main area for improvement. The three main aspects of grammar that I have zoomed in on since then are the ones listed on the slide. In these sections in the subject knowledge audit, I did not achieve a single mark and have been looking at how these areas are taught within the English classroom. This presentation will focus on coordination and subordination, sentence construction, and how this can be taught in the Key Stage 4 classroom. Part A. The function of grammar. To understand where grammar is placed in the national curriculum and how it is taught to Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4, it is fundamental to understand the function of grammar. It is evident from these quotes from David Crystal that grammar is a tool that we will use in everyday life. Therefore, it is essential that pupils are given every opportunity to learn and develop their grammar. What learners do we meet at Key Stage 3? To understand how grammar is taught at Key Stage 4, it is essential to know pupils' journey within grammar in order to build upon and develop this. The statutory requirements of Key Stage 2 state that students should be able to make grammatical connections throughout their work by using a range of adverbials and a range of cohesive devices. They should also have an idea how words are related by meaning and different grammatical aspects that can change this. In Key Stage 3, there is an increased focus on grammar within the national curriculum. It does have its own section and its own subheading. However, looking at the list of bullet points, this highlights that grammar goes hand in hand with reading, writing and speaking. There is not a key focus on grammar in the sense that it shouldn't take over the other components of English. Instead, the educational aim is to enhance the components of English by integrating them with grammar. Again, with Key Stage 4, students are at a level where they can build upon their knowledge of grammar to be able to draw on its constructions and use them in their speech and writing for desired effects. The key words to focus on here would be effectiveness and analysing. Students are expected to analyse writers' techniques like syntactic complexity and evaluate their effectiveness. Students are also expected to express these techniques in their own writing. For both Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4, grammar's relevance relies on the active and creative tasks within forms, communication and comprehension. The theories of grammar. I'll just give you a couple of seconds just to skim over the quotes on the slide. As you can see, David Crystal agrees with the incorporated approach of grammar with other components set out in the national curriculum. The language and use approach allows students to see how language works in different forms while also exploring literature. Jeff Barton supports this, stating, grammar shouldn't dominate your teaching. All the other stuff, talking about literature, listening to pupils, reading great texts, grammar can enhance all of this, but it doesn't replace it. The importance of intertwining grammar with reading, writing and speaking within lessons will enhance students' knowledge and work. It gives students a fundamental building blocks to sculpt their writing, carve their communication and ignite their creative flair. This theory of grammar from the Kingsman Report, 1988, conflicts with what has just been discussed. It states that many people believe that standards in our English would rise dramatically if we returned to the formal teaching of grammar, which was normal practice in most classrooms in 1960. However, scholars such as Mike Fleming and David Stevens talk about this approach and call it the naming of parts philosophy. As the name suggests, it does not give students a platform for discussion or an opportunity to engage with material, and it completely decontextualizes grammar. Cross-curriculum links. By teaching students the importance of grammar and giving them opportunities to interact with it in use, we as teachers are giving them access to the functional language for life. Cross-curriculum links are significant and grammar can enhance these topics within these links. For example, studying sentence structures within English will allow students to transfer these skills when they are looking at engineering instructions in technology and design. Students will know by the syntax why it is instructional and can recognise different cohesive features to carry out the task properly. Part B. found this resource online at Teach It English. I think this is a wonderful resource as it allows students to think about the effects of different sentence structures while looking at language and use. It also has prompting and stimulating questions for lower ability students to guide them through this activity. I have adapted this resource in the next slide. My adapted resource. This resource is about improving your sentences with coordination and subordination. As discussed previously, grammar should be integrated with other components of English. This has inspired me to take a holistic approach when teaching grammar. I created this activity in order to enhance students' knowledge of grammar by using a pre-1914 literature text that they would have studied. This text is Jane Eyre. Students are asked to use a coordinate conjunction and a subordinate conjunction in order to transform the simple sentence into a compound and complex one. After introducing the activity, I would model the first answer and narrate why I have changed the sentence in this way. I have also added the page numbers so students can look how the sentence is used in context, which might help them. This activity is great because it uses a holistic approach to enhance students' creative writing and grammar. I think this would be a great resource for all Key Stage 4 learners, but the scaffolding would especially benefit lower ability Key Stage 4 learners. Students can use the scaffolding of the last activity to help them with this one. Here students are getting a chance to practice their grammar and writing. This activity would be beneficial as it will allow students to enhance their creative writing from a grammatical perspective. In the AQA English Language Paper 1, Exam Question 5, students are assessed by AO6. And I've just put it there on the bottom of the screen so students know what they're being assessed by. This constitutes for 20% of the marks. This activity would develop students' grammatical skills as they are given an opportunity to practice them in their writing while also linking it with material that they have engaged with, giving more substance to the grammatical lesson. This low-stakes activity will also prepare students for the high-stakes one, which will be the exam. Students will have access to the mark scheme before completing this task so that they can see what they need to do to achieve those higher marks. This is a resource that inspired me to create the focused writing task on Jane Eyre. I accessed this through LitDrive and adapted it to suit my focus. Teaching grammar in this way allows students to develop in their creativity, comprehension, and grammatical structures. Using images in this way also allows students to get familiar with the AQA exam, as in question 5 they are asked to write a response by looking at a picture. Not only are students enhancing their grammar and creative writing, but they will feel more confident going into the exam knowing that they have engaged with material like this previously. This is another great resource which I found on LitDrive on sentence structure. So this activity involves pupils physically getting up and going to get the definition of the word. They also have to work in pairs. It would be an excellent revision resource for students to have once completed, and the movement activity results in enduring learning. However, students need to see language in use to understand the possible effects. Although this activity is helpful, it is what David Stevens and Mike Fleming have called the naming of parts philosophy. It needs an activity where students can gain a deeper understanding. It would be more beneficial to link the activity with literature in order for students to see the language in action. With the current climate of COVID-19, this activity would also not be possible with a partner. Therefore, I have adjusted the activity to meet the current needs. My adapted resource is Match the Word to its meaning. This would be an independent engager activity. The table would be printed out and put on students' desks before they come in, so it could be a do-it-now task. Instead of students looking for the definition physically, it would be on the table but in the incorrect order. Students will simply have to draw a line matching the word to the correct definition. The starter activity would be a class discussion where we would talk through these definitions and common errors as a learning check. In order for students to engage with material and consolidate their understanding of grammar, I would use the template from the previous slide while also getting students to look at the language in use. This activity would be used for Learning Development 1, and it would be looking at literature from a grammatical perspective. Although students will just have looked at the definitions of these structures, it is vital that they are given opportunities to engage with the material in order to achieve a full understanding and see the language in use. Therefore, we use materials from past papers as a low-stake learning strategy. This one is from the AQA exam. This will give pupils a chance to see the language in use while also becoming familiar with the exam paper. I would do this activity as a live writing one, analysing it with the class and talking through the possible effects of these structures. As Jennifer Gonzalez pointed out in her podcast, 4 Laws of Learning, it is essential for students to know why they are learning this and where they will be assessed on this by communicating learning goals. Looking at the AQA English Language Paper 1, there's 2 particular questions that assess this. This activity focuses on question 2. Students need to be aware of the mark scheme, and this question is assessed by AO2, which I've just put on the bottom of the slide and highlighted the key words that students need to focus on. After discussing the mark scheme with students to set out expectations and goals, I would then model how to approach the question and what to include in it in order for students to see writing that models what they're working towards. This is my waggle. I am aware it is a lot of information on the screen, so I've highlighted in green the sentence structures and in yellow the effects of them. This is a great way for students to see what is expected of them. This modelling would be particularly effective for lower ability Key Stage 4 as they can see what they're working towards. It can also inspire students in their own writing and they can see clearly the expectations that are expected of them. I have seen firsthand how well whole school approaches work in order to help students grow through my observation experience. The students had a low reading ability, and so in form time, they would silently read in order to enhance this. I would draw on this method and encourage a whole school approach in teaching grammar, and I have come up with grammatical bingo. As discussed earlier, grammar should be taught in the English classroom by using literature and looking at language in use. However, this resource would support students' development in grammar as it will enhance their learning and understanding as they will make more connection with it through retrieval practice. It is also a fun activity for students to take part in and will allow students to become more familiar with aspects of grammar. This is my own resource that I created at Buzz Bingo. I adapted it to suit learning about grammar. My final thoughts. English teachers should have a holistic and integrated approach when teaching grammar. Grammar should be taught using other components of English. For example, taking a grammatical lens when looking at literature, listening to pupils, pupils listening to each other, and exploring language. It is vital that students are given opportunities to see language in use to fully develop their skills of grammar, as it is a functional language for life.